Shut up and sit down.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Fight for Liberty show. For those of you guys that missed it, we just did an awesome interview with Governor Nicholas Wildstar of California. I'll say California this time. I said California the entire time during the show. This show is going to be live streamed everywhere on Free Speech Media. If you guys are watching this on one of the Lizard People websites like YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, go over to Trovo, DLive, Float, something else. Watch this on Free Speech Media. Give them your data, your time, your attention, your ad money, and earn crypto in response from all of those three sites. So go on over, do that stuff, because fuck YouTube. I know we're all on YouTube, but fuck YouTube. We don't want to support them. But what we do want to support is other people in the liberty movement, like Mr. Dan Berman and Tom Queter and Spike Cohen and all the other fun, wonderful guys over at Nug of Knowledge. If you guys want to get a little bit stoned while you're watching this and you don't know how to do it because you live in a shitty state that doesn't have legal cannabis yet, go to nugofknowledge.com. We have awesome CBD, CBG flower, as well as Delta 8 THC pens like this one right here. It's beautiful. That's what I'll be smoking on most of this show. So go on over to nugofknowledge.com, use promo code UNITE, and get 10% off. Today, we have the Libertarian in Chief, soon to be the National Treasurer, Mr. Todd Hagopian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Well, sir, I'm very happy to have you on the show. You were really high up on my list of like people I wanted to have on the show when I started, and it's been over a year, and you're finally here. So this is this is a bigger deal than some of the other bigger interviews, to be honestly.
Well, I appreciate that, and I apologize for it taking so long. I have 4 little kids, and they keep me pretty busy, and then go, and we kind of, the nights get pretty busy.
Can definitely understand that, and I do thank you for having me on Chief Chats a little while ago with Kevin. That was fun. Yeah. I love you guys are how I find good guests. I like just watch whoever you guys are posting about, and I'm like, oh, Isabella Riley, okay, she sounds cool. Oh, who's Jessica Vaughn? All right, let's watch this one. It's like I pay attention to your feed, and I'm like, oh, this seems like a super based person. Yeah. Let's bring them into the fold and start tweeting about them constantly.
Yeah, we've had a lot of luck bringing on people who maybe aren't household names in the liberty movement, but have really cool content, and we bring them on, and those people who have good content online tend to be great guests. And Isabella and Jessica, the two you named, just blew us away, and we had no idea what to expect. You know, we bring them on for the first time. We've never had a phone call with them or anything. You know what I mean? You don't know what's going to go on. And I mean, Jessica might have been one of the smartest people we've ever interviewed.
She's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, she was rocking the books and going way over my head on some stuff, and then Isabella was on the mic. I mean, I had no idea who she was. I always look at Twitter, right? And she has like a few thousand followers and whatnot. And then all of a sudden you go over to her Instagram and she's got, 125,000 followers. It's like, holy crap. And
yeah.
Great content, that I didn't even know about until after we interviewed her. So.
Yeah, it's funny how many people are like that with the two different social medias, or like Facebook.
Yeah.
One of my first, I'll say like big guests was Elaine Joan, the Libertarian redhead.
Yep.
And she, I was looking at her Twitter, and she had at the time like about 15,000 followers. She's almost to 20,000 now, but I mean that's not crazy. Although for me at the time it was. But then her Facebook is like almost at 75.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't know that. I said something about 15 on the show, and she's like, well, actually, it's like 75. And I was like, oh, I've never seen your Facebook page before. So, whoops.
I'm the same way. I think I only have 1,000 on Facebook. It's just not something I ever paid attention to until I started running for office last year and really started putting myself out there on Facebook.
Mhm.
I still, have to remind myself to go on there once every couple of weeks and do something.
Yep. I feel you there. Facebook is not my cup of tea, even
Yeah.
though we're streaming to 2 different Facebook pages right now. That's the only content that goes on to Fight for Liberty's Facebook page. No memes, no graphics, no nothing.
Right.
If you guys want to follow what's going on, it's Twitter. It's always Twitter. Well, Todd, I'm curious. You are the Libertarian in chief. What made you tip your toes into the wonderful world of liberty?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So back in around 2010, I was living in Michigan. I'm only about one district over from Justin Amash when he got elected. So I started following him and understanding a little more and questioning some of the things that he did. I was a super neocon growing up. I mean, super, super hardcore. Actually, probably Christian conservative turned neocon over time.
Nice.
Grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's hard blue, city, and I was Republican. And so when you grow up in a hard blue city and you're Republican, you get really, really sharp elbows and just learn every argument against, every liberal methodology. And so that's how I grew up. And then Justin Amash, I really liked him. But then every now and then he made a vote. And I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? You know what I mean? Like, why would he vote like that? And it just started making me question some stuff. And so I watched him. I started questioning some things. And over time, as I moved to Ohio, I learned about Rand Paul and some of the other folks and started questioning some more stuff and slowly started changing my views, which I think is important to actually take a look at some of your views. And I remember when Portman, I know it's not a libertarian, but Portman came out for gay marriage. And I remember that specifically because I really liked Portman. And I was like, what is this guy doing? And for about 2 months, I sat there and struggled with that issue. And I started listening to my arguments against it and trying to figure out how to really believe it. And that was probably
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm losing. You're cutting in and out on me. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, your mic isn't always picking you up quite right.
Okay, sorry. And so in that moment, I started really looking at all the different issues and going one by one and taking a look at it. And at that point, I didn't realize Libertarian versus Republican. I was just looking at issues, trying to figure out what I believed and what I didn't. By the time we got to 2016, I knew I didn't like Trump. I didn't like the direction he was taking the party. And the day that he beat Cruz in Indiana, I believe it was my last day as a Republican. I said, okay, I'm leaving the party. And then I was out for looking. I read every single party platform that I could find. And the Libertarian Party, when I came across it, I knew the word from Justin Amash, but I didn't even know there was a party. The entire time I lived in Michigan, I didn't know there was a party. The entire time I lived in Ohio, I didn't know there was a party. Read the platform and I was like, check, 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 check. You know what I mean? There was very few things that I had any issue with. And I said, this is the party. And I reached out to Austin Peterson, who was running at the time. And I reached out to Larry Sharp, and both of them took my phone calls. You know what I mean? And had conversations with these guys and other people in the movement. And I was like, you know what? This is the party for me. And I started backing Austin Peterson in the primary. And when he lost to Gary Johnson, the first thing I realized is that other people had no idea what a libertarian was. That was the big problem. Like nobody could answer that question, even inside the party. So I came up with this moniker one day, Libertarian in Chief. And I said, you know what? I'm going to teach people what libertarian is. And I just started. All I did was I started taking little bits of the platform and tweeting it out as if it was me and saying, as president, I would blank. and it would be part of the Libertarian platform. That's all I was doing. I made like 100 tweets. I sat there one night and just wrote out 100 tweets, and then every 8 hours I would put one out. And they started getting retweeted like crazy. People were like all over it. Everyone's like, yeah, run. It was way too late to run. And I wasn't interested in running. It was just a moniker and a game, really. And it got so serious to the point where I had to be like, guys, I'm not running. This is not, this is just a joke to my followers. You know what I mean? But the moniker stuck. And that's when I realized that we had a branding problem, and that's something that I could work on in the party. And for the next couple of years, that's really what I did, was just online discussions and teaching people about liberty and having those debates and trying to get people to understand what that looks like from a libertarian place.
Yeah. So since then, you've run for a few different things, including chair and a few actual elections outside of the party.
Yeah.
Now you're taking up the banner for a run to be the national treasurer.
Yeah.
What motivated you to want to try to manage the fucked up financials of this crazy group of people?
Well, I had a misguided effort to run for chair in 2020. Somebody reached out to me, a number of people, but one person in particular, and said, you know what, we really need somebody who's a businessman to come in and do this. And I started looking at it, and I said, yeah, the party needs branding. They need professionalized, we need to mobilize and this stuff. And I had a pretty good platform, but it just wasn't the right time. People rightfully had objections over how involved I had been in the party, or not involved in the state party, in the places I had lived. I had bounced around a lot. I had not gotten involved in Ohio. I had just gotten to Oklahoma at that point in time. And so I dropped out of that. Ended up running for school board. I got only a few votes there. And then I ran for corporation commission last year and set a record in Oklahoma with 384,000 votes there. The reason I am ready to do the chair or the treasurer is because I believe this party has an issue with how they are.
Freudian slip there, maybe?
Yeah, Freudian slip. No.
Does Angela have something to worry about?
No. The reason that I am interested in treasurer is I think there are some issues with focus. So I've run a lot of businesses. Okay, I've run businesses as small as $2 million, as big as $800 million. I know how you put together financials. I know how you put together return on investment analysis, how you put together a long range plan. There's basically 5 things you have to do as a treasurer of a national party. And these are things that some people will tell you are not the treasurer's job, and those people are wrong. You have to recruit people. You have to retain members. You have to recapture lapsed members. You have to fundraise. And you have to spend less money than you make. Those are the only 5 things that you have to do as a treasurer. So what I think a treasurer needs to be is the chief financial officer, which is much, much different than being an accountant. Okay, so we've always treated it as an accountant. You put the sheets together, the balance sheet and the P&L together, and you report out. You need a chief financial officer who's focused on strategy. You need to be a chief recruiting officer who's coming up with exactly how to spend the money to drive the most recruitment possible. And you need the chief fundraising officer who's making sure that you're spending the appropriate amount of money fundraising so that you can pay for everything else. None of that's being done today. If you look at the budget today, there are severe deficiencies in how we're using our money. So if you bought a membership today for $24, about $2.50 of that goes towards helping candidates win elections. About $1.50 of that goes towards ballot access. About 75 cents goes towards helping state affiliates. And about 75 cents goes towards recruiting new members. And the rest of the money goes towards other stuff. But if you were to list your top 5 things that a state or that a national party could do, those should be 4 out of the 5, right? What else is there? And so we're spending our money on the wrong things. Does that make sense?
100%. 100%. Yeah. I've noticed a good shift in the correct direction for a lot of what National is doing. I am still a fan of Joseph Bishop Henchman, but I completely agree with you that we're mismanaging our finances on a national level, and it's not like something nefarious. I think a lot of people want it to be like, that they're intentionally like wasting money, or that they're torpedoing the party, or that this and that, and really I think what you said earlier is exactly that. It's we've had accountants running the finances of the party instead of CFOs, and that's been a problem. Really, I mean, we've had activists and we haven't had professionals running the party really that much at all. Joe was a drastic improvement to Nick, and I'm a huge fan of Nick Sarwark, but that was a huge improvement as far as people that knew what their job was, kept their head down, did the job, did the work. I'm happy about the direction that we're trending, but I'm also very excited about a few new people.
And I'll give Joe credit where where credit's due. And I think I tweeted it the other day that I got a fundraising call the other day, and it was the second fundraising call I've gotten since I was in the LP, and it was extremely well done. So the guy called me when I was busy, and that was fine. But he introduced himself. He said, "Hey, there's an event tonight, and it's only available to people who have given $2,000 over the last 12 months. You've given X. If you give Y, you qualify for the event." Do you know what I mean? So it was basically calling people who had given a decent amount and trying to get them to just one up it a little bit to qualify for this event. And I think it was Jorgensen or somebody was Amash or somebody was talking at this event. And so it was kind of the perfect fundraising call. It had this little carrot, that he was trying to sell. And he had all my information. He knew exactly what I had done in the past, and he knew exactly what I had to do in order to qualify. And that's what the ask was. And it was just extremely well done. Contrast that with my first fundraising call. That was about 2 years ago, where the guy called. He was extraordinarily abrasive. I ended up giving him the money anyway, because I wanted to. So I gave him the money. He took more money than what I believe that I offered. And it got to the point where I called the credit card company to cancel it. And Fishman and I ended up having to get on the phone to work it out. Do you know what I mean? So that was an unprofessional call. Do you know what I mean? Where I actually had a bunch of money I wanted to give, and it was an unprofessional call. Whereas now I'm having this super professional call. So it's gotten better, I guess is my point. There have been improvements. I don't know what those improvements are. I don't know if this person was paid or if he just had a better script or what. But it's gotten better, and that's good. I don't know if that's Joe. But I'll give Joe credit where credit's due on that.
Yeah. I was very excited. I got to talk to Joe before he won. He came on the show for a good amount of time. It was an almost 2-hour episode, and he just laid out his passion for the party and for the movement and for what he was going to be able to be doing, and I got really excited. I got really fired up. I did also encourage Anthony DeRazio to kind of run against him, but that's because I saw the team sports mentality starting to play out already, and we'll touch on that in a little bit because I think it's gotten worse. But I saw that starting to build up, and that's why I encouraged Tony to run, was just to have basically a third party, and the third party preaching unity and anti-divisiveness. Now I've kind of picked up that mantle myself, but I'm excited about Joe. I'm excited about you. I'm excited about a lot of people that are moving up the ranks of the Libertarian Party because, like we said earlier, it's getting more professional, and it needs to continue to get more professional. We need C-level executives on the XCOM, and then they need accountants. Like, the thing is, we still need an accountant running the LNC's stuff. It just shouldn't be the treasurer. That's a whole separate other person.
Yeah, or it can be outsourced, or the treasurer can do both, because that happens in most organizations, right? The CFO is in charge of the accounting and the financial strategy. He's just got people under him, or outsourced accounting work, right? And I believe if you look at the budget, some of it is outsourced today. And then the other thing is we do have to spend our money better. There are still severe deficiencies that we have to fix. I believe as of last convention, I was looking at the convention report just because it happened to be in front of me, but there was a line item in there where we had spent something like $250,000 on direct mail fundraising. Great. We have to fundraise. That's fantastic. We made about $114,000 on it. So that's not actually making money. That's losing money, right? And so
yeah, it's just mailers at that point.
Right. And so now, conversely, online, we spent $37,000 and we made $560,000. So now, is that $37,000 of advertisements that drove $560,000, or is it just $37,000 in credit card fees? And these are people who would have come to the table and bought memberships anyway. Don't know, right? Need to dig into that. But that should probably be in the treasurer's report so we can understand how good each of these things are doing, so that we're not sitting on the outside going, why would we ever spend $1 on direct mail? You know what I mean? Because it looks like we shouldn't. But then B, if you actually took direct mail completely out of the equation, we would have spent less and made more. So we would have actually had more money in the bank account if you believe what's in the treasurer's report. And the question I have is, how many hours were spent on direct mail? Because right now we don't do box accounting, which we should consider doing, where you actually are attributing the hours and the labor dollars to the actual activity so that you can figure out how profitable each thing actually is. Right now we don't have that. All we have is direct mail costs this, and we brought in this, and the labor is off to the side somewhere else. You can't figure it out. And so that's a problem. That's not how you run it. That's not how you do these analyses. So that's a big issue. I think we need to have an ROI on each of these types of things. The other big issue is when you look at the new members and retain members and recapture members, those three strategies, what you'll see over time is that you get this big recruitment up to the election. And then right after the election, you get a huge downfall in membership and revenue. Okay. And then it kind of treads water for a year. So year 2 after election, and then it starts rising again. Okay. And it spikes and then huge downfall. We need to change our strategy per year so that we're spending different amounts of money on recruit, retain, and recapture, depending on where we are in the cycle. So we need a cycle-based fundraising strategy that allows us to, when we're falling off a cliff like that, we should be spending a bunch of money on retain. So theoretically, David, right this second, we should be trying to retain people, right? But that young man was calling me trying to get more money out of a lifetime member who is not going to be gone, right? So I'm not saying it was a bad time to make that call. I was happy with the call. But was it the right use of our money? I don't know. Because this is the year where we should be focusing on retaining so we don't have that huge drop off that we have after every election.
Right. It has been nice to see that there hasn't been the same drop off from this year as we saw from 12 and 16. Those were really big spikes, and those dropped off already, like way before now. That was by January, our membership had tanked. Now, we're over 6 months past the election, and it dropped, but it didn't drop nearly the amount that it normally does. We retained like almost half of our membership this time around.
Yeah, I think I have to look at that and take a look at what the numbers look like right now. But any drop at all, it tells you need to be focusing on the retain right now.
Oh yeah, for sure. That needs to be our number one thing, and I think I accredit a lot of that retention to the fact that we retained a lot of our like our bigger names. In 2016, by the time the election was over, every LP presidential candidate was off doing something else. Like Gary Johnson stuck it out till the day after election day, but even by election day, you had fucking McAfee was in Spain, and Peterson was championing Trump, and none of them really came back at all. Now we've got like Judge Jim Gray and Lincoln Chafee speaking in the Wyoming State House about drug decriminalization. We've got Spike Cohen touring the country still. We've got Justin Amash going all over the place, talking to everybody that he can about liberty. Almost all of our presidential candidates, I mean, even Joe Jorgensen being back in with People for Liberty, like all of our presidential candidates are still busting their asses for liberty for the first time ever.
It is a really great point because I have a good friend who's an advisor to some candidates. And one of the things that he said that he was super disappointed in after 2016 is you had Austin Peterson jump over to the Republicans. You had Gary Johnson just kind of fall off a cliff. And he goes, if those two guys had just set up a video camera, in their basement and done a podcast twice a week, and both of them, keep the liberty movement going, we would have drastically different results just from the outreach that could have happened from two really popular members of the party. And so you're exactly right. That's a huge difference between now and 2016. And I don't know what drove that other than excitement and a brand new crop of candidates who want to be involved on a regular basis. But yeah, we are blessed to have these folks doing that.
Yeah, I'm proud of those people because a lot of people wrote off, especially Lincoln Chafee. A lot of people thought that he came in, got burned, left, and he was gone for good. Him sticking around really gave me some hope. And Amash, similarly, a bunch of people thought that he was going to Bill Weld it or even Gary Johnson it, and he's been doing more for the liberty movement than either of those two people ever have. I'm really encouraged to see that. I'm curious what pushed them to stick around. Why is Lincoln Chafee doing better job than the rest of those like old Republicans that we've recruited in the past?
My personal opinion would probably be 2024. So I think that this year's crop of candidates, 2020's crop of candidates, are more interested in running again, and 2016's were done. And they may or may not, but I think that all of them want to keep that door open, and this is how you keep that door open. Plus I think that they are getting a lot of invites to state conventions, and they're saying yes, whereas Gary Johnson wasn't as approachable. And these guys are, Spike will come to an event and Amash will come to an event, and Gary Johnson just wasn't like that. So.
Yeah. It's encouraging to see. I'm excited to see what we do going forward. I just played my mom 2 different videos in between the last show and this one because 2 of our not presidential candidates yet basically released videos over the last couple of weeks. So I showed her the one that Spike did yesterday, and then I showed her the new Mises Caucus ad from last weekend. Both amazing videos by Dan Smoltz. Just fucking, you can't watch those things without being like, yeah, liberty!
He did both of those videos?
Yeah. Yeah, he's which I find fucking hilarious. People called me a political mercenary. It's like, bro. But yeah, just that kind of stuff is something that, Gary Johnson had some decent videos, but nothing anywhere close to what we're seeing coming out of the people who literally aren't even running for anything right now. Like the Mises Caucus is just doing stuff, just in general, like just stuff. And they're making better ads about their stuff than we did about presidential campaigns 4 years ago. So
that's right.
I think professionalism, I guess, might be just kind of be the theme of this episode. You know, we're getting it on all angles, and it's really fucking great.
Well, I don't know if you remember the Gary Johnson Bill Weld ad from 4 years ago, the big ad they released. Do you remember it? It was like kind of a goofy, funny. I mean, it was cute, right? But it wasn't professional. And that's the things you're seeing now are 100 times more professional than that. I thought it was a funny ad, but you're right. It's a whole different plane now than it was 4 years ago. And they spend millions on that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they did. I do love the one shout out I'll give Gary Johnson is I am now forever a fan of the blazer and jeans politician. that look, that like identity that he had of the, you know, I drive an SUV to campaign events in my jeans and that are comfy and my blazer that's comfy. And I look professional, but not like a stiff. Right. That energy, I really dig it. I really dig it. And I hope that we have more Gary Johnsons in the future, as well as more Spike Cohens and Dave Smiths and Ron Paul. You know, there's a flavor for everyone. And I really enjoyed the flavor of Gary Johnson. I know a lot of people don't, but he was fun. We need another presidential candidate that'll fake a heart attack on national television. It'll be a good time. So as you know, we're talking about getting. We talked a decent amount about retention. What kind of plans do you have for going out and actually getting new people to want to become members of the LP?
Yeah. So recruiting, you're talking, or retention?
Yeah, recruiting.
Recruitment. So in recruitment, it really should be driven by the states. So this is where you talk about affiliate development, you know what I mean? Which again is 75 cents out of every $24 is what we spend on affiliate development. So we need to bump those numbers up. We need to help share strategies. So on Thursday, for example, Kevin and I are hosting a clubhouse event. Kevin Hobby and I are hosting a clubhouse event to talk about best ways to recruit among states. And the goal of that is not to tell them what we're doing in Oklahoma. It's to get some good folks on from all over the country and be like, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? How could you make that better? You know, and then have some important people on the call just listening, you know, the Matt Kibbe's and the Larry Sharps and the Spike Cohens of the world who can go out onto their podcast and be like, hey, I heard this idea the other day and it was awesome and you should all do it, you know, and then boom, all of a sudden a ton of people hear about it, not the 28 people that are on Clubhouse, you know what I mean? That's kind of the thought process behind that. So we may end up doing a series of those, but for the national question, the idea would be to put money towards state affiliate growth. And then more importantly, I'm a huge fan of things that pay back. So for example, you can potentially have matching funds programs. You can have different types of promotions where states compete. You can do one national program that states are allowed to do together. You know, for example, I'll just throw one out there that we're probably going to do in the Oklahoma Libertarian Party, okay? Because I don't care who steals it, because go ahead and go and get a bunch of people, right? So, you know, these platinum American Express cards that everyone loves, right? And people are so impressed because it's like real metal, okay? So we don't have membership cards. Hardly any states do. A couple states do, okay? So what if you had this platinum American Express membership card? Okay, it's got your name on it and it costs $100. You get the card and you get a free, you know, you get 1 year paid membership. Okay, Oklahoma's $24 membership. So you can buy the basic or you can buy this $100 thing. So we do a membership drive, call people up, you know, this is what we're doing. They filled out a variety of different things. We have their names from a million different things, right? But they're not members. So you call them up. Hey, you can get this $100 membership card. You get 1 free year of membership, and you get a personalized membership card with your membership number, blah, blah, blah. Oh, $100 is too expensive. Okay. You can do a $24 basic membership also. Would you like to do that? Okay, great. The other guy, oh, $100, that's great. Oh, if $100 is great, you can upgrade to $250 and get the lifetime membership for Oklahoma LP, and you get the free card with it. And so you use the call script, and you shoot for the middle, and you have 1 to go if they say no, and you have 1 to go if they say yes, and you drive as much possible membership and recruitment and fundraising all at the same time. So you turn it into a fundraiser / recruiting, right? And now from a national level, you could do this even easier, because the problem with these things is you have to buy like 200 of them, right? For it to make sense, but they only cost like $3 or $5. Okay. So let's say they cost $5. You just got $100. You made 95 on it, right? So you don't have to sell all 200 to make money, but from a national level, you could sell way more than 200. So if you had every state doing it, all of a sudden national could make a ton of money and then cut the states in on it. And obviously you got to go through rules and stuff like that and figure out how to do it. But at the end of the day, those are the kinds of things. If you actually look at national's budget, there's nothing like that in it. There's no fundraising driving to the states. There's no helping the states with fundraising. There's no helping the states with recruitment. There's these affiliate development budgets that are to make videos and pay for people to go do trainings and this kind of thing, which are all valuable. But it's, again, 75 cents out of every $24 basic membership goes towards affiliate development. That's where you're going to get the recruiting. I've had probably 60 people on the show now, on the Chief Chat show, right? I have not had one person tell me that they became a libertarian because the LNC called them. That hasn't happened. There's nobody out there became a libertarian because the LNC called them. Okay. They became a libertarian because they saw a candidate, they heard a podcast, they got contacted by the local libertarian group, or they met a local libertarian. That's why people become members. So yep. The LNC should be in charge of that portion of it. We should drive recruitment to the states.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. I actually ran a poll today on Twitter about like, how did you hear about the Libertarian Party? And it's like almost 2,000 responses. That thing's actually taken off because a lot of people are putting in the comments, Ron Paul, Ron Paul, Ron Paul, Ron Paul. I was like, that's a presidential candidate. That was one of the choices. Comments was supposed to be for other guys. Come on.
You should go through the comments and ask see how many people listed the LNC. I'd be curious.
So far. Exactly. Actually, I have seen some very interesting responses in there. The thing that I found the most interesting is how many people said James Weeks.
Really?
And like they're real, like they're active members of the LP right now, and they heard about the party because we had a chair candidate strip on C-SPAN. That was their first experience, and they were like, "What? There's some crazy motherfuckers over there doing some shit. Let's go join in on that." And I had never really, I've heard like 1 or 2 people tell me that like that was their first introduction to the Libertarian Party, but I've never heard it that many times in a positive light. But there was at least like a dozen people that put that in the replies. I'm like, all right, cool. I mean, he did it. He did a thing. All right, that's good to know. I mean, he forever tarnished our reputation as a party, but you know, maybe a dozen people joined the party because of it. So
I was trying to bite my tongue to that exhibit, but
me either.
That was probably 3 months after I joined the party or something, and I was like, really?
Yeah, I've never been a fan of that, but I found it very interesting that so many people mentioned that today. But yeah, as far as affiliate as like support goes, it's something that, you know, like you mentioned, they are doing some of it now. They're doing the trainings. They're doing like the Prague Caucus is now doing the affiliate in a box program.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you know, JBH is trying to shift some stuff. But what they're lacking is what you're talking about, which is what I'm actually trying to push the Prags to do more of, which is like replicating things.
Mhm.
We have a bunch of people in the party who are fantastic at what they do. I mean, we have people like you who knows finances better than probably almost anyone else in the party at the moment, right? We have people like Caitlin Cloven, who's just a master at data science, at social media, all of these things. We've got like Elaine Joan, who's also a master of data science and actually a little bit more in that area. We've got so many people with so much skill, and they're being stretched so thin across like 25 different campaigns. And there isn't a coordinated effort to replicate these people.
Yeah.
And that's what we're missing right now. And I think it's a similar thing when we talk about the LNC versus the state affiliates. If we can have a powerhouse LNC that has, that has people that know what the fuck they're doing, that are treating it like a C-level, like executive position, they can then teach the state affiliates how to do the same thing. Because a state chair isn't somebody like the state chair doesn't mean the guy that holds the keys to the Twitter account. It doesn't mean the guy that gets to be the loudest at the meetings. It means the guy that has to know all of the things that are happening in the state, knows how to chair a convention, knows how to handle Robert's rules, knows how to know where all of the money is, where all of the paperwork is, where all of the everything is. Like, I think a lot of people don't understand the jobs that these inter-party positions actually are.
No, and I think they don't understand that they can change them either, that they don't have to be the way that it was before. So, for example, in Oklahoma, we had a great treasurer before me. But when I took over, one of the first things I said is 85% of our expenses for the last 3 years have gone towards convention. Only 15% of our expenses have gone towards anything remotely legislative, political, getting people elected or recruiting. And that's not acceptable. And we've still grown like crazy. We've grown by accident because we haven't been trying. And so now we're going to try. Now we're going to take all of our money and we're going to spend it to grow. And so we put an extremely aggressive budget in. So we have about 150 members, right? It comes out to like $4,000 a year of membership dues if that's all you bring in. Okay, we've got like a $16,000 budget because we're going to go out and fundraise, and we're going to bring in $9,000 at the convention. You know what I mean? And this and that. And so now we're coming in with a $16,000 budget. And in the past, it's always been, no, you can't do that. You can only plan for, the exact number of members you think you have in the bag, basically. No, that's not how. Could you imagine if I told my boss I can't plan for growth? No, we're not planning for growth this year. that's too much. It's just so we need somebody at the national level to be like, hey guys, this is how a treasurer works. Could you imagine if we had 50 treasurers that were all spending, at least 50% of the state's money on growth instead of what they're doing today? That's how you grow the party.
Amen. Fucking men. I've said this too many times already, but I'm really just pumped up today. So I'm going to say it again. I'm excited to see what you're talking about happen. And I'm really, really excited about Oklahoma. That's been my favorite state in the country as far as the LP goes for quite some time now. You guys had the most honorable, respectful, like pleasant chair race I've ever seen in the Libertarian Party. And I think, and I don't know that there's going to be another race to rival it anytime soon. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see Angela and JBH give each other as much respect as Kevin and Rex, but I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, and then you guys fucking shot off as soon as Kevin took off. I was talking to him the other day. You guys had like a 2,800% increase in social media engagement.
Yeah,
that's fucking unheard of. Like, I could hear Caitlin's jaw drop through Clubhouse the other day when he said that. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful.
And the great thing is that it wasn't like 0 to 60. You know what I mean? Like Chad had engagement. Kevin just took it to the next level, and it's just about being consistent, branding. If you look at all of the tweets that are coming out of Oklahoma, they all look the same. They all have a bold message. It's not a mushy middle message. It's not, cut around the edges message. It's bold. There have been a couple, and I'm bold. Okay, I'm pretty hard, and there have been a couple where I message Kevin afterwards, and I'm like, you might want to watch the comments on that one. Let's see how the comments come in, just so you're ready to pull it back if you have to. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But we've been bold, and it's paid off. People are retweeting it. Other states are liking it. Kentucky, Connecticut, Colorado, California. We're getting Texas. We're getting retweets on this stuff, and people are seeing it. And even more importantly, on Facebook. And I don't say more importantly as a joke. More importantly, because that's where most Oklahomans interact with us. We are getting tons of comments and good dialogue with Oklahomans on our posts. And by the way, we just recruited somebody off of a Facebook post. So we made a post, he commented, we talked to him. He became our 6th elected Libertarian. He was an elected city council person, and he joined the party, and he is now a Libertarian elected city council person. And so that was huge. I mean, that got us, thinking in another direction. Do we go out and reach out to every elected city council person in Oklahoma and see how many people out there are on the teetering edge of Libertarian already, but just don't know we exist because we haven't done a good enough job telling them, but that only happened because of that social media outreach.
Mm-hmm. That was a little bit of our strategy here in New York for a while. That's how we got our first elected in New York. Was we had just like a town supervisory board person that was like, you know what, fuck these fucking Republicans. I'm done. They're not helping me win basically what happened was they announced that they were primarying him, and he was like, really? Are you fucking serious? Like, after everything I did for you? Like, I've just bent over and taken it from the Republican Party my entire career. Not career. I mean, we're still talking like super local politics here. But he's like, all right, fuck you then. Switch to L. Won the primary anyway, because in New York we have fusion voting, so you can run as a Republican and a Libertarian. So as an enrolled L, still won the Republican primary anyway, and was just like, fuck you guys. It was great. And he's still elected on his 3rd or 4th term now. So
that's great.
It's a great time.
We've got, I believe now 4 council people and 2 school board members. And we've had some real close calls to get more too. We're growing, and I think this is going to be something that we look into, because there are these people in the rural areas of Oklahoma that we just have not gotten into yet, and that's where there's a lot of libertarian leaning Republicans, like real libertarian leaning Republicans are out there in the rural areas, and we just haven't had the reach to get there yet. So
you guys are also about to have an elected mayor.
Oh yeah, that hopefully will happen. There's actually, I believe, 2 people who will be running for mayor at some point in time. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good to know. Y'all can try to figure out who we're talking about there.
Yeah. Not me, by the way.
Now, you're also in a major city in Oklahoma, though, correct?
Yeah, I live actually in a suburb of Tulsa.
Okay.
So I live in a pretty small city, but it's about a mile away from a Tulsa address. So yeah, so I'm in Tulsa County, and then Kevin Hobby and most of the group is out there in Oklahoma City, in those counties.
I'm hitting the mute the wrong direction. I was looking at the election numbers in the state from last year, trying to put together some numbers, and what I found interesting is that in a couple of precincts in Oklahoma County, Joe Jorgensen almost beat Donald Trump multiple times. Like there are
Yeah.
multiple precincts where they're only 1.5% away.
Yeah, it's Trump. Well, first of all, Oklahoma City and Tulsa have quite a bit of liberals or Southern Democrats, or mushy Republicans. So those folks are pretty moderate, and then the rest of the state is hardcore red. But I think I won something like 25 precincts in Oklahoma, and most of them were in the Oklahoma City area. And obviously, I didn't have a Democrat running, so the Democrats were voting for me, and I was beating the Republican. But to your point, so a lot of those precincts that don't have strong GOP leaners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find it very interesting. Like New York's map is really fucked up when you look at it from like an election standpoint. But Oklahoma was even more interesting because every county was red, but when you click into them, every city is super blue. And I find it really interesting that you guys haven't gerrymandered your counties correctly to have blue counties yet.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's just, and I might be wrong here, but I hear almost nothing from the counties. I don't know that the counties have as much power in Oklahoma as they do in some other states. So I couldn't name one county official. You know what I mean? If you asked me, I couldn't name one county official, and I live in Tulsa County, other than the sheriff, only because I thought about going after him. But yeah, I can't. Yeah, I think the counties just aren't as strong here.
Libertarian sheriffs are super based.
Yeah, no, and he ran unopposed, and I still kick myself for not trying to put somebody in that race. So
that's my new favorite target. Yeah. I'm trying to find sheriffs and mayors. Those are the races that I'm really like, and city planners. I'm trying to find a bunch like the kinds of cities where they have to run together. I want to find a bunch of like mayor and city planner campaigns to like run together in 23, because that's, with those two, like we can focus like an entire state's resources on a mayor of a town of 100,000 people and change those 100,000 people's lives drastically, tangibly in days after winning that election.
Yeah, and I really like sheriffs. I think it's an interesting one where we can really get out our criminal justice discussions into the public, and I think that people will resonate with what we have to say, at a local level there. And I think that there are a lot of Republican sheriffs that aren't very conservative from a criminal justice standpoint. You know what I mean? And I think that we can have those discussions and actually make a difference, and at the very least move the needle. And then I really like council races, and the reason I like council races is just because you can do a lot with $2,000. You know what I mean, in a campaign, so you don't have to raise a lot of money to win. And once you get on, you keep getting elected. They're usually nonpartisan, so you can rule as a libertarian, but don't have to have the L next to your name, next to an R and a D. You know what I mean? And they allow people to become elected libertarians so that they can run for something next. So I really do like council races, and we have focused a lot on that, even though they don't have any ballot access, implications here. But we do like to go after those.
Yeah, I think a few too many people focus on ballot access. It's something that I've cared about a lot, and obviously in New York we have our struggles with it, and I've had like a real tangible fight of trying to get people on the ballot, getting ballot access, losing it, and trying to get it back, and all this other fuck shit going on in New York. But ballot access, as important as it is, when we're talking about like these sheriff's races or these city council races, like you said, a lot of these are nonpartisan. B, a lot of these are super small. We're running somebody for county legislature up in upstate New York. She needs 95 signatures to get on the ballot. That's after us losing ballot access. This is having to go back through the independent into the libertarian, like the whole bullshit route into getting on the ballot. It's still 95 signatures. That's 2 afternoons, right? Like,
Right.
that's not difficult. So at the end of the day, we can spend $100,000 trying to get ballot access every 2 or 4 years, or we can spend $100,000 getting a dozen mayors elected every year.
Right. Yeah.
It's up to you. It's up to the party.
And it's a great point because, and unfortunately, ballot access is so important when you're talking about presidential politics and recruiting and stuff like that. But it really should be state by state that we look at how important it is and how much money we're spending versus what's the return on that investment. Because in Oklahoma, all you have to do is get 2.5% in a statewide race. So we actually have it in our budget this time. For the first time ever, we're going to have $1,000 in the budget to help pay a filing fee for somebody who has the best chance at getting a ballot access race. And then if that works, then a $1,000 investment gets you ballot access for the next 4 years, right? Whereas you're talking about $100,000, like that wouldn't be a good investment for us, but $1,000 is,
Yeah.
And then if we get one person in one of those races, then we can focus all of our other attention on mayors and city councilmen and getting people elected. And because, there's all different kinds of ways to recruit and run elections, but really we need to win some, and we need to recruit through elections. So if we have a really successful mayoral candidate in a major city, that might help us recruit. If we actually get elected, that might help us recruit on city council level. If we get 35% in a statewide race because no Democrat ran, then people are voting for the first time for a Libertarian. That might help us recruit people. We have to focus on what will help us recruit people and try and put our best people in those limited number of races instead of trying to run every single person who can talk without throwing up on themselves and find a race to run in. You know what I mean? Like you only have, every state only has 5 to 15 really, really strong Libertarians. Put those 5 to 15 really, really strong Libertarians in the right races. Don't go out and find 30 goobers and have them run on every single open ticket,
All right, that's the quote from today's episode. Don't find 30 goobers.
I mean, like paper, there's a time and a place for a paper candidate, what I mean? Just to get a Libertarian on the ballot.
Yep.
But not if people are going to look around and be like, okay, I see 30 names and I've only heard from one of them. You know what I mean? That's not what you want to have. And that happens too often. There's a lot of people that want to paint the ballot and it's just a waste of time, energy, and money.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I used to be a fan of painting the ballot and paper candidates. I wanted to get I wanted to have somebody running in every congressional race in New York next year. I think that's a horrible idea now. I've worked with too many paper candidates at this point. I almost was one myself. I'm not a fan anymore at all.
Yeah. I was the same way. I talked about it when I first got in the party because everyone has big ideas when they first get in the party. I talked about let's put somebody in every single congressional race in the country and blah, blah, blah. And that does work if they're all good candidates. but we don't have 435 good candidates that just happen to live in, the different congressional races, congressional districts. So find your good candidates, find out where they live, and then look at what races are open where they live, and then place those good candidates in the right races.
Yeah, for sure. So I have one more topic that I would be remiss if I didn't bring up. As you may know, I am a Mises simp, fakertarian, loser brigade, prag, radical, unity, racist, Nazi, commie. You're actually a member of the Mises caucus, officially, not just random accusations getting thrown at you like it is for me. I want to talk about the takeover and liberty, unity, and how those two things are kind of starting to mesh, but also a lot of people are considering it kind of contradictory.
Sure. So first of all, I'm a state organizer for Oklahoma. So I am part of the quote unquote leadership team. I'm one of 4 or 5 state organizers that we have active in Oklahoma. I am also a Radical Caucus member, paying dues-paying Radical Caucus member. And I see those two caucuses as not contradictory at all. I see them both being bold messaging. Both of them have different messaging. And you'll see both of those messages come out of my Twitter feed and my social media. But I do spend most of my time recruiting and talking about Mises. So what is the takeover? How I look at it is it's libertarians taking over the Libertarian Party. That's what the takeover is all about. And that's not the message that gets out there most of the time. The message that gets out there is it's Mises folks taking over the Libertarian Party. No. It's small L libertarians from all over the country taking over the Libertarian Party. Does that mean that I don't believe that the people running the Libertarian Party right now are libertarians? No, that's not what it means. It means that I don't believe the people that are running the party right now are the best libertarians in the country that we'll ever have. Okay. Kevin Hobby likes to say, he's not Mises, by the way, but Kevin Hobby likes to say the very first libertarian governor in the United States is probably not a libertarian right now, because we are such a small party that we have to grow, and then we'll start getting the people that are going to be our first governor and our first senator and our first president. There are a ton of small L libertarians out there that need to join this party, and we need to be the people who bring them in and let them take over the party. That's what the Mises takeover is about. Now, do we want them to be Ron Paul, libertarians? Yes, that's what Mises is about. Okay, but there's plenty of caucuses. And what we always say is that we'd be happy if every other caucus goes out and recruits as hard as we do and raises as much funds as we do and brings as many people to convention as we do. Okay, and then all of a sudden every convention is 5 times as big and the movement is 5 times as big. That'd be great, because we're bringing libertarians in, and that's what we want. We want the libertarians to take over the party. They don't all have to look like us or talk like us or think like us. You know what I mean? You can see the Mises slate in Oklahoma was 6 Mises folks and 2 non-Mises folks. The current the current people that they're talking about the Mises slate for national is 2 Mises folks and 2 non-Mises folks. So we're not only nominating Mises folks and pushing Mises folks, we're pushing bold people who are radical in their beliefs, that want to put libertarian principles front and center, and people who are willing to go out and recruit hard. Mises Caucus brings in over $14,000 of donations a month. Okay, and that's been growing. That was probably 10,000 in January-ish. I mean, it's growing and growing and growing because more and more people are coming onto this train. And so, yes, we're trying to take over the party. No, it's not so that we can change how the party works. We just want more libertarians in the party because we don't believe that the best ones are here yet.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that, especially that last part. I think I pissed off Justin Amash a little bit in a clubhouse room a couple weeks back because I said quite plainly that I think that the best presidential candidate in 2024 is someone that we haven't heard of and no one's talking about yet. And I said that in a room where he was the last person to speak, and I don't think he was very happy with that, but that's okay. But yeah, I'm 100% with you, especially if we're talking about like the first person that's going to win like a gubernatorial race. Yeah, no, they're not a libertarian yet. We don't know them yet. I mean, unless it's Kevin Hobby,
Right. Yeah, of course.
I'm not even joking with that one. That kid can message and just rally people like no one else I've seen. So I'm excited about whatever the fuck he does in the party. But yeah, we need more small L libertarians to become big L libertarians.
Right.
That's a big part of the problem. And then we need big L libertarians to become elected libertarians.
Exactly.
And we need neocons to become small L libertarians. And I think that's like Mises, Prague, Radical. Like those are those 3 caucuses' strategies pretty much lined up, and it's great.
You're about to see my son for a minute. Come here. Tell everybody you had a nightmare.
Yeah, I do. Very bad.
Very bad dream. Okay, could you go back and say them? Okay.
And when are you going
In a little while.
Know those days. Unfortunately, he can't just hide his bad dreams at work like I do.
Yeah, exactly. or drink or something.
Right? It's like, oh, I can't sleep. I guess I can do 4 hours worth of comms work. But yeah, I've been pretty critical of the takeover rhetoric since the beginning. I've never really liked it, and especially I'll be honest. Like there's a little bit of it that's kind of personal. As a pragmatist, as someone that's a member of my state committee and has been a member of the party since early 2017, the idea that like some of these states need to be taken over, I think is a little faulty, or that national necessarily needs to be taken over. I think that the fact that the rhetoric started so quickly after the election was really my problem. It's like we really don't know what Joe's going to do. Angela announced her race for chair 3 months after the election. Like we have no idea what Joe Bishop Benjamin is going to do in office, and we're already saying like, oh, we need better. It's like, do we know that for sure?
I get that, but every election out there is like that, right? Every election starts the day after the previous election, and running for something doesn't mean that you think the other person is doing a bad job. Mm-hmm. It means that you have a vision for the office that you're running for, right? So I'm fine with how fast Angela came at it. I think the rhetoric, I for a while said that internally with the team, said I didn't like the takeover language, and I finally got over it after listening to Dave Smith quite a few times, kind of explain it the way that I explained it. Including to us, by the way, not just outwards, but also inwards. I got myself around to the point where, like, yes, this has to happen. Now, does that mean there's no good boards out there? No, I mean, there's good boards now, but I don't see a problem with bringing in new faces and having them be on important positions. And not to mention, I should say this. So you mentioned 2017, right? I've been a Libertarian since 2016. I joined the Mises Caucus in 2020. Not all Mises Caucus people joined the party last week. You know what I mean? A lot of Mises Caucus people have been Libertarians for a long time. And they're just now getting more active, or they're just now taking on that mantle, or they're just now donating for the first time. I know people who have never donated to the LP, but have always voted that way, but now are donating to Mises because they're pumped up. And so, we have to be careful about assuming that all these people that we're bringing to conventions are brand new, former Republican MAGA people, because they're not. We had multiple lifetime members in Oklahoma that were on the Mises ticket. Now they bought the lifetime membership this year, but why would you even do that? If you were a brand new Republican, you could be a member for $24. They bought it for $250. They voted Libertarian over and over again in Oklahoma. You know what I mean? And now they're excited. So they became a lifetime member and ran for positions. Like, those are the kinds of people that we're bringing to these conventions. And I just think it's a misnomer when people are like, oh, they're just stacking the deck with Republicans. And no, there were probably 2 people that I can think of out of the over 20 that we brought to Oklahoma. There are probably 2 people I can think of that actually had to change their registration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pushed back against that pretty hard. I went on Fakertarians this past weekend, and that point got brought up. And they weren't actually fully making that accusation. They definitely weren't saying the all thing, but they were like, how do you feel about Republicans like showing up and registering Libertarian that day? And I'm like, I didn't see any of that. Right. I didn't see any of that in PA. Like, literally none of that. I mean, I heard that there was somebody that's like a Republican committee member that was there, and everyone knew that was her, and people from PA know that and whatever. Okay, so there was one. Maybe there were a couple other people that that were new. But they were everyone I talked to at the Mises Bash last weekend was, they voted for Ron Paul in the primary, voted for Gary Johnson 2012. Like
Right.
most of these people have been voting Libertarian since 2012 or 20
Right.
or 08.
Yeah.
I heard a bunch of people, that were Harry Brown fans. He ran the year I was born. Like, for fuck's sake. Like, a lot of these people have been Libertarians since before I was born, and that's not even an over-exaggeration. So,
I mean,
I'm with
silly,
you.
Right? It's kind of silly to think that Ron Paul Libertarians just became Libertarians. Ron Paul hasn't been on the scene in 8 years, 9 years. It's like, if they're Ron Paul Libertarians, that's really what happened to the movement, which you look at all the leads I get from Mises, you know what I mean? And I see why they joined or why they're asking for information. And it's always Ron Paul, Ron Paul, Ron Paul, and then sometimes you get the Thomas Wood and the Dave Smith kind of thing. But I mean, Ron Paul is the number one thing. Well, he's not even talking he's barely out. Nobody's seeing Ron Paul for the first time right now. These guys have been interested in him for 8+ years. These are not new people to the party. They're just getting excited for the first time and putting money behind something for the first time.
Yes. I think that's a very important point to hit, because you're right. There's a lot of misinformation about the takeover that I've been doing my best to push back against on the interwebs when I can. Luckily, you've got a lot of friends in the Unity movement that do it for me, and that's always a good time. Because I'll say this: you as the person that you are online was a big help when we started the Unity talk back in January, because I was having arguments with people that were like super, super, super anti-Mises. And it's like, no, everyone in the Mises is like racist, Republican, blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, but Todd, right? and all of them had to be like, okay, yeah, but like all of them but Todd are blah, 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 blah. And I made everyone put that caveat in there every time they talked about Mises, because no one hates you. Like the loser brigade loves you, or at least they did in January. I know you've lost favor over there because you doubled down on some things that they didn't like, but especially back in like January and February, it was like, what do you mean all Mises sucks? Todd, he's awesome. And it was a great diffuser. So
I love doing that, because everybody that comes at me, with all of Mises this and that, I'm like, do you think I am? Well, it's not about the individual. Well, no, it is, because you're using individual examples, you know what I mean, of random people that say they're Mises, and you're trying to say that we're all like that. I'm like, I'm a random person that's Mises that actually is in leadership. Am I like that? No, okay, well then maybe we're not all like that. I'm like, we have 50 people in the Oklahoma Mises Caucus. None of them are like what you're describing. Not one. And if they were, we'd kick them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And everyone goes back to, well, have you seen what goes on in their Facebook group? It's like there's 13,000 motherfuckers in that group. I'm in the Fakertarians group. You want to talk about like, oh, everyone in a Facebook group is X. Like, fuck out of here. Actually, I was blown away to see some of the other people that are in that group. I was not expecting like multiple people that sit on the LNC to be in the Fakertarians Facebook group.
I try and join as few groups as possible on Facebook. I got so burnt out in the last convention.
Yeah, I joined that one just a couple days ago after I went on their show, because it's fun. I like those guys. Like John Hudak is a cool dude.
Yeah.
Like I'm so sick and tired of all of the infighting and the bullshit at this point. And we were going at this Unity stuff for a while, and it's not that I wasn't sick of it then. It's just that it's completely different. Like the amount of fucks that I give about people's personal drama right now is so minuscule Where before I was like, all right, guys, can we let's work it out, let's hug it out, let's make up. At this point, I'm like, if you don't shut the fuck up, I will run you over on my way to burn down the Capitol building. Like, if you're trying to stand in my way of making liberty tangible in our lifetime, I will fuck you up too. Like, at this point, I'm not about it anymore because it's a waste of freaking time.
Yeah.
I saw the most enraging post today. Somebody was yelling at Spike Cohen because there was a quote in his video from yesterday that about revolution, and that was clearly pandering to the Mises messaging. And I was like, you're really like just gonna offer up the entire word revolution to the alt-right somehow. What?
By the way, that was my favorite part of his video.
Oh yeah. All right, let's do some revolution shit.
Yeah.
Fucking great. I love Spike Cohen.
I will say, just on caucuses in general, I know that Epke and Karen Ann were going back and forth a little bit on this, but I will say I think caucuses are an important part of the movement, and I think that they are a way for people to get involved and get behind the part of the movement that they're passionate about, go out and find new people, recruit, bring those people to conventions, get those people to come to, national, get those people to run for things. Like, if caucuses are done right, then they're recruiting and they're fundraising and they're bringing people in, and they're spending their time, effort, and money on that and not on the infighting. You know what I mean? And I think that we have, unfortunately, because we had kind of takeover season, you know what I mean, in these conventions, we are hitting stride a year early on the caucus infighting. We shouldn't have had to deal with it this year, but we are. But I think people need to really start to look back and understand why they got into the caucus in the first place. And that was to grow the LP, to grow like-minded folks and bring them into the fold. And if you're spending all of your time doing something other than that, then you're doing caucuses wrong.
True that, 100%. I was trying to stay non-denominational for a while. I was for quite some time. I officially joined the Pragmatist Caucus about 4 months ago or so, after a few long conversations with some of their leadership, where I was assured that if I came and helped, that they would return to their roots as well. Was kind of, they liked the unity stuff. They liked the fact that I was friends with Dave. A lot of people in the caucus didn't want me in leadership because I was friends with Dave. Yeah. But the actual leadership was very excited about that. And we've been trying to bury the hatchet for a few months now. And I think at this point, the war is basically almost over. Like, there's really only the morons are still out here trying to be like, this caucus is this and blah, blah, blah. I mean, fucking Dave Casey was out here shitting on the Prague caucus yesterday. It's like, fuck you. Like, this is over. Like, stop. Like, why you don't... and the funniest part is the critics of the Prague caucus don't know shit about the Prague caucus. The critics of the Mises caucus don't know shit about the Mises caucus. It's like, all they're doing is arguing on Twitter. It's like, actually, no. Why don't you talk to some of the people they've gotten elected? Because a lot of Prags don't realize that Mises has pushed some actual victories in electoral politics. A lot of Mises people don't realize that the Prags can claim over 200 victories since we were created in 2017. And that's the other big misnomer that I love just breaking to pieces. Are the idiots that think that either of these caucuses had anything to do with the 2016 primary. like both caucuses are newer than you and me to the party. Like, they were both created after we joined the party, and they had nothing to do with Gary Johnson or Bill Weld or Peterson or any of this shit. All of that was before the caucuses. All of that was before Heiss or Alex like took up the mantles of their caucuses. These are completely different things.
I actually didn't know the Prags were that young because I was a member of the Prags really early on. I still get emails. I haven't paid dues in a couple of years, but I still get emails from them. And I can't remember when I joined, but that must have been 17 or 18, I guess.
Yeah, I think both caucuses sprung up around the same time in like early 2017. It was in the wake of the election cycle for sure, and the Prags were a conversation for a little while, like during the campaign, but definitely after the primary was over.
Yeah. Can you imagine how boring the LP must have been 4 years ago?
Right. Oh my gosh. And final fucking misnomer for anyone watching that still thinks this: Nick Sarwark is not a pragmatist, and he never has been. For Christ's sake. That's the thing that annoys me the most, is when people are like, "Oh, you're a prag like Nick." Like, Nick was a radical, and now he's a nothing. Back off. But it's yeah, I mean the infighting, like I said, I think it's basically over. Only the people who have made it their entire identities are keeping it up at this point, and the people who want to work are working, and we're seeing that like tomorrow night on Clubhouse, Dave Smith, Spike Cohen, Justin Amash are going to sit down and talk for the first time in public ever, and that's a thing that's happening. Like the war's over. Like it's just it's over. We need to cut it out and get to work. And I'm excited for what for the resume that Angela is going to build over the next year and a half or year. You know, going into that convention, she's going to have to earn a lot of votes and I think she's going to earn a lot of votes. Mm-hmm. And I think JBH is going to have to bust his ass to maintain. And I'm going to do my best to help him do that.
And I think they're going to have a very kind election, I believe. Now, the problem is going to not be those two. It's going to be the followers of those two. So we're just going to have to all behave better than we have in the past. And I think 2020 was a trash chair election. People were just trashy human beings during that election on both sides. And we just need to be better than that. You know, we have two great candidates. Neither of them deserve the bullshit that's happened in the past. And I hope that people will be better. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, when I was running for chair, I asked Bishop Hetchman to join the race. So he and I messaged back and forth, and I asked him to come into the race because I thought we needed more. I've got nothing against Joe. I think he's great. And I think that he and Angela are gonna have a great race. And I think anybody who wants to trash either of them doesn't know very much about liberty.
Ooh, beautiful. I love the way you said that. Anyone that wants to trash either of them doesn't know much about liberty. It's beautiful. And I think this comment is I'm not 100% sure if this is about Casey or Smith, but yes, we need to lock Andy Craig in a room with quite a few people and get them all high, and then the war is over. I'm actually very happy to have smoked a blunt with Andy Craig a week and a half ago, and kind of buried the hatchet between us because him and I do not get along online either. But yeah, I hope that you're right. I see that potential from Angela for sure. I see that potential from JBH, and I'm really excited as someone who's trying to work on the Prague caucus's outreach and messaging, and having a bunch of friends like yourself over on the Mises side that's also doing it right, pushing for liberty in all of the ways that you guys are fucking fantastic at it. I think 22 we have some real wins. Like 22 we have some really big wins. And I don't think we're going to win the presidency in 24. But but national ballot access in 24 is a real possibility.
Yeah. I agree. I'm excited. I think we have a lot of stuff going. I think as you see each of these state conventions get bigger and bigger, we're setting records at state after state in an off year. You know what I mean? And that's not just Mises. That's other people coming in as well. And I think we couldn't believe it in Oklahoma. We planned for like 35 people, and we had like 65. You know what I mean? Which we're a small state, whatever. But in an off year to set a record, we had more people this year. It might have been more than that, but we had more people this year than we had when Joe Jorgensen came to our convention during the presidential year last year. And that's all just because, we're growing, and that doesn't happen the year after a presidential election. So I think we're in great shape. And I think if we can keep this up, I think 2022 is going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully the presidential race starts sooner rather than later, and people get excited and start coasting towards 2024. And I think that'd be a great thing.
Amen. Well, Todd, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, thanks for watching. If you don't already, go follow Todd on all of the things at Todd Hagopian on Twitter. And if it wasn't clear already, go vote for him at the convention. I want to see all you guys at Reno, and I want all of you guys to check your ballot for the Libertarian in chief, because we need to take this shit seriously. This is life or death at this point. We need liberty. All right. Well, Todd, again, thanks so much for coming on. Guys,
thank you, sir.
Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it, tell everybody to join the Mises Caucus and the Pragmatist Caucus and the Radical Caucus, because they all need your help. And we'll catch you back here next time. Until then, keep up the fight.